Welcome to the Sacred Geometry of Consciousness. For more than 33 years, your show hosts, Gregory and Gail Hogue, have been internationally known leaders in creating sacred geometric tools for expanding loving consciousness and well-being. Listen in now as they share practical applications of sacred geometry in everyday life.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today as we continue to talk about how Spirit connects with us. You know, it's an ongoing journey. It's an amazing experience as we open up more and more to those higher aspects of who we are. It really expands our lives. It gives us the capacity to have more love, more joy, greater understanding and compassion, and to live through the heart. Gregory and I have been doing this work for many years. Those of you who know us know that we've actually been together now for over 33 years. And we've created wonderful sacred geometric tools that we call metaforms. And these tools are so powerful because they clear a pathway to spirit that gets through all the blockages, difficulties, and impediments that are created in this reality. The vibrational fields generated by these tools create a clarity within you to help facilitate greater access and expanded intuition. And of course, the more you work with them in just living with them, meditating with them, having them in your environment and on your body, the more you work with any tool, the greater your capacity is to receive the benefits that it offers. And so let's now continue about some of the things to look out for on this magical journey of expanding into greater consciousness.
Thank you. Yesterday we were doing a segment of this, and what's interesting is that all the things that go on in our lives, it's really important to share with you, I think, some real life examples. So it's not just an academic exercise. And by that I mean, after we were done recording, I went to the computer and my intent was to download the information. However, what's happened recently in our home is we had a leak, and so we had that leak destroy some of the wood floors, and one thing led to another, and all our floors were ripped up and our offices were torn down, and in the process, everything was moved. So when I went to my office, it was partially set up, and I'm looking for a manual on working with the Zoom H6 that we're recording on. And the way Spirit often works, I want to say, is that when something doesn't work in our lives, it seems like that's when our attention is really gotten. And that's when Spirit seems to work on helping us understand something more, a better way, some way of cleansing out the old that isn't working. And so I was looking for this manual. And of course, I remembered vividly in my head looking at the binding. So I was looking everywhere in all my bookshelves, and Gail was in there helping me, and we were looking everywhere and couldn't find it. And she asked at one point, well, are you sure this happened after you packed up your office and were unloading it? or before, and I thought, oh, I'm pretty sure it was after, but we couldn't find it. And then I realized, no, wait a minute, maybe it was before. And immediately I went to a box. I mean, there's still probably half a dozen boxes in my office. I went to the correct box and immediately stuck my hand in and found the manual. So what does that mean from Spirit? You know, for each of us, we're going to look at Spirit in a unique way. And so I also, because of the tools we have, we've both been communicating with Spirit. So what we're sharing with you now is how Spirit communicates with us, and it's so nice to be able to communicate back clearly with Spirit and find out what was meant. And so that's what I did with this situation, and found out that the intent of Spirit in doing this was, one, just to again bring to my attention that when I couldn't find it, what it really took was a change of perspective. So often I keep going on one perspective and nothing's happening, or I'm not being successful. And it really takes shifting my perspective into, oh, let's look at things having happened before I unpacked. And then immediately I found it. But there was another aspect when I asked Spirit. I said, is that it? And I was told, no, there's more. And the more was that in the end, did you really need it? So often what happens in our lives, I know what happens in my life, is that I have things laid out. If I don't get things done in a certain order, if I don't have my booklet there, then I can't do step 2 and download it, and so on. So it's like Spirit says, it's important to realize you have the power, you have the support all the time of infinite universe. And if you chose to go ahead without your booklet, without whatever it is you think you need, you can be successful. And you can still go forward and do what you need to do.
You know, Gregory, I really feel like that is such an important point about letting go of the way that we framed things in the past. Because particularly now, we are in an evolutionary cycle where it seems as if all of the indicators that we are familiar with seem to be shifting. I know in our personal experience, like what you were mentioning before in our home, it's very disorienting to be in a place where whatever we are familiar with isn't there. We had to change our offices for a while, and it's almost like a whole reboot. Well, reboots are great. However, before we get back into, having things in some kind of a discipline and order, it can be really challenging, and it can be emotionally challenging as well when the unfamiliar is what's really dominating reality. So I know for me, during this experience of so much change, I've really been talking to Spirit a lot and asking, will you please help me understand what this is about? Because it seems like so much is shifting. And when I think that, well, okay, we've gotten through this. We've now gone through so much letting go and going back into a whole new, rebuilding. And I'm thinking, well, geez, we're through that period. And then I find, no, we're not. There's more, and there's more. And I think that is the essence of what's going on now. And I like to liken that to many years ago. I used to talk about how the systems, the function of this universe, the structures at some point were truly going to break down so that the new can come through. And I believe that that is so much of what's happening right now. And it's difficult to participate in the breakdown because, it is personal. Our personal lives at times are really being deconstructed. Not just the world around us. It's not out there. It's in here. And that is very difficult, but it's also very exciting that we can go through that. It's almost like we can go through a death and rebirth in this same lifetime, in this same body. So it takes compassion for ourselves. It takes stepping back and looking at things from another perspective. It also takes watching the signs and clearly asking Spirit, asking our higher guidance, help me understand this so that I can better proceed, so that I can make more out of what this is really about. And also to recognize that when things keep falling apart, you're not doing anything wrong necessarily. It may not be that you didn't get it. It may be that, okay, you got it, and now there is more. So stay connected and stay tuned. And just take it a step at a time. And make sure that you take those moments of gratitude, deep appreciation, and coming back to that place where you're breathing through the heart. You're letting go and you're coming back to the heart-centered posture.
Oh, thank you. Gail helps me so much stay on track in this whole journey. It's so lovely if you can find friends that can support you on the journey and give you slightly different perspectives, because she planted the seed within me of, was this really after you unpacked or before? And when I really shifted to changing my perspective, I immediately found it. But the interesting thing was that there I was, okay, now I'm ready to put it into the computer. I'm going to get this done today. Because of all this stuff with our floors and the offices, we've been behind a little bit in keeping up with doing everything we wanted to do. But not today. And then ding, my phone has this message come in on it. And it's my credit card company saying, did you just make this purchase? They do that to me all the time. And almost all the time, well, not almost, all the time I say, sir, I made that purchase. But today I looked down at the phone and I went, huh? I don't think. I asked Gail. No, this was a purchase we hadn't made. So I told them no, and immediately they got back and said, okay, we've shut down your credit card. And I was thinking, oh no, please, I don't want my credit card shut down, because I have all these different accounts. This is my business card. I have at least 30 to 40 different accounts that automatically pull money out every month, all our suppliers and so forth. So I called the credit card company, and I was looking for a way that maybe this happened because Gail was online looking at something that was similar to what the charge was. And I was going back and forth with the agent. And then he said, well, what just happened was there was an attempt to work with a charge on Venmo. And I said, what's Venmo? And he said, I have no idea. So I Googled it while we were talking, and it turns out to be an app where you transfer money from your checking account or your credit card into your bank account. So I went, okay. It's like it hit me so strongly that obviously this is someone that has my card. It's been compromised. They're trying to get money out of my account. I had better shut it down and change all the numbers or change all the connects and so forth. So I said, okay, let's do it. I admitted I had to do it and let go to it. And then I'm going later, okay, Spirit, what was the purpose of this? Because, this is what we're sharing with you. Everything happens as a reflection of Spirit. And it certainly helps when you can not just guess at it, but literally have ways of asking Spirit and getting answers. And so that's what I was doing. I was asking, is this some comment on my finances? No. Is it a comment on maybe being more careful? No. I went through all this stuff. What's going on with this? And finally came to the understanding that it was just a feedback on process. Because of the breakdown of our house and the reassembly of everything, some of the things I was going through were like 30 years old. From the beginning of our marriage, I had files of businesses and things we worked with where I still was hanging on to those files, and I was throwing so many things out, getting rid of so much. Again, with Gail's help. She's better at getting rid of things that don't serve than I am. Are you sure? I'm sure I have to get rid of that contact from 30 years ago. What if he... Anyway, the point is, it was about process. And the process was, one, admitting this is where you are, which is what I finally had to do when I learned that someone was trying to move money using Venmo into a bank account. And then I had to say, okay, I'm going to have to get involved in this process. I am going to have to do it by the book. And I said, can I get a new number right away? I knew they'd say no. We'll send you a card. We'll make it go fast. But you're going to have to let people know that are wanting to draw money out on that card that you aren't going to have a new card for 5 or 6 days. So, okay, I play the game the way it's supposed to be played, and then you'll be done with it. Then on to the next thing. And don't make a big deal out of it. And it put everything I was doing with the move of the stuff out of my office so they could rework the wood floors and sand them down again, because they had to look the same in my office as they did in Gail's office, as they did in the kitchen where the leak was, as it was in the art room and the living room. Every place was wood floors, and they had to change it all. So it was like moving without moving. We were still in the same place, but our life turned over. The good part from Spirit was that we realized, after trying to do this for several months and being unsuccessful at pulling it together, the guy that was helping us said, have you brought this up to your insurance company? And I went, no, I hadn't. Again, it was the kind of thing where Gail had once mentioned, could insurance do this? Or anyway, I had passed it over. But insurance really helped us a lot in this one.
It did, and that was another little story I wanted to share with you, because for months we were trying to accomplish having this all done, and we were going to do it on a smaller scale because we recognized how much effort it was going to take to have to close down our offices and do everything, get everything out of the house.
And money.
And yeah, and very expensive too. And it was so odd because I would call the wood refinisher and have him come back over and check to see if the floors were dried out enough to be able to proceed. And he'd come back and he'd go, nope, not dry enough. Let's wait another, month to 6 weeks. I'd call him, he'd come back, same thing. And then that's when he said, there's a bigger problem here than this. And I really think that you've got an issue that could be an insurance issue. And when we called the insurance company and they said, sure, we do, we'll come out and check it out. Yeah, we should probably cover that. And that's when I went, oh, wow. So Spirit all along, our higher guidance, was attempting to get our attention by showing us that things weren't working, and we were oblivious to it. We just kind of thought, okay, it'll dry out. We were keeping that same perspective as we had been. But as soon as we stepped back and got into a bigger picture and we realized, hey, we're going to need some help here because we've got sort of a mini disaster in our house, and we reached out to the insurance company and they said, yeah, we'll certainly work with you on that. And it was such a learning because our relationship with higher guidance and spirit is quite amazing. They are really on our side. There is so much guidance and so much support for every single one of us. However, we've got to watch the signs. We've got an opportunity to listen and to ask really good questions so that little by little we can partner with spirit. We can work together. We can step back and receive more. And that's really what happened. We ended up having all kinds of wonderful things come out from this experience, even though, it's been very taxing, a really major amount of work, and we're ready to be done with it soon. And there are so many benefits. And so that's a great metaphor, again, looking at our lives, whether it's relationships, businesses that we're in, whether it's interactions with other people, professional kinds of situations, or health. When things aren't working, rather than taking it in a way and feeling down and feeling limited and feeling as if you're not getting a fair shake, it's always better to step back, look at it, ask really good questions, and know your guidance, spirit, your higher self wants to come into the picture and work together. And when that happens, there is so much opportunity. Everything shifts. It all shifts. In a moment, you can shift it. And learning how to be aware more and more, watch for those serendipitous messages. Who shows up? What's on your plate? Is really absolutely wonderful.
It's hard to believe that this life would be boring without all these little things happening all the time, that if we were already in heaven and everything were perfect, that there wouldn't be anything to learn and we'd go somewhere else where we could be of service. But that's the point of all of this, so that we can learn and grow and be of service to all, service to each other, to be able to share, like even some of these points today, to just make it a little easier in your life, because we're constantly learning, and this is what I need to do. And so yesterday, that was part of my learning, as I said, when Spirit said, it's not about money or worried about losing money, you have to be more careful now. It's about the process of what you have to go through. And once you accept that, okay, my card's been compromised, I need to go through this, I need to call these companies and tell them to change the card number. And then I went, okay, this process, what is it going on in my life right now that Spirit wants me to see the process of how this can help me understand how to deal with all of this that seems like overwhelm at times.
And something, Gregory, that I think is so important is that a lot of the things that we do habitually are from our past. They may even go back to when we were little children and we're still anchored into some old ways. And it's so freeing, it's so liberating to know that we can let go of those old ways. that's a lot of what's going on, is transcending the old. We are renewing ourselves. We are bringing ourselves into greater capability. So yes, I think this is a magical time for us where we're shaking loose the old paradigms, the old ways of doing things, our old behavior patterns, so that we can fully be present. We can show up in an expanded way. And that's what our higher self really wants. There's no need to keep doing the same old stuff. We don't need to remain hooked into that any longer. So it's really pretty darn exciting, isn't it?
It is. And it was really wonderful when it sank in yesterday that this is just like the overwhelm I've been experiencing from dealing with all this change and all the new stuff coming in and the old stuff going out. It's like, it's just process. I just open a box, put the books on the shelf, and then I'm done. And then I go to the next one, and then the next one. And just do the process and be joyful and grateful for all that has been given to you in terms of your new house. The beautiful piece of stone that's now in our kitchen, where Gail hated the granite tiles because they were chipping out, not looking nice. You can't get tiles anymore in granite. So we got a whole slab and they paid for it, and it's a beautiful piece of quartzite with beautiful pink and gold colors running through it. So everything is becoming more beautiful and powerful.
So the bottom line is the gifts. There's so many gifts available to us. Be grateful, be joyful, work together. And we are very blessed, and you are very blessed. So thank you so much for taking this time, and we look forward to being with you again soon. Blessings.
Bye-bye and blessings.